Discover the worlds you want to live in. Isekai, world building at its most enthusiastic.
Hello and welcome. I'm Bitsy the Alien, galactic overlord of the Stranger Realms multiverse and the planet Eoterra. Without further ado, let us welcome today's welcome.
Thank you
Robert.
so much for having me aboard the Mothership. This is fantastic, Bitsy. It's nice up here in the Mothership. It's a nice temperature. The altitude's not too high. This is going to be good. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I'm happy to have you on.
I wanted to just say that it's nice to meet you. I have been following your work, and I think we both joined the Comics Launch Pro program right around the same time, maybe like the same month or so. And so it's been fun. It's been fun to see everybody doing their thing and meeting people from around the world. And for this campaign, for this Kickstarter, I'm trying more to do live streams and podcasts and just kind of like meet more people and just make that kind of connection. We've all been kind of cooped up for a couple of years with this stupid pandemic. So it's about time to kind of reach out and talk to some people. So this is great. I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to meet you.
Thanks. Yeah, I totally agree. These little podcasts between us creators they're a lot of fun. It's good to put faces to like the profile pictures and the campaign projects.
Yeah. And I think I remember a couple years ago, you were sort of doing podcasts for the first time, and you were talking about how you were sort of overcoming a fear or like just becoming more comfortable talking with people. And then flash forward a year and a half later, here you go. You've got your own podcast. So congratulations.
Thank you. I've made a lot of strides in the personal interaction thing.
That's cool.
I still don't think I'm very good at it, but at least I can do it now.
That's great. Yeah, you can do it, and you're meeting people, and the more you do it, you get better at it. So no fear, or at least recognizing your fear and kind of overcoming it. You know, that's pretty cool. So I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Do you want to jump right into the first question I always ask everyone?
Sure, absolutely. I hope these questions aren't too difficult. I reserve the right to pass on any question I feel that's too hard. Hopefully, so we'll see. We'll see if you stump me. But
the first one's a little bit off, a little weird because most of us are comic book creators, so I like to ask, what is your relationship with anime and manga, and what does the word isekai mean to you, if it means anything at all? Okay,
so I was actually thinking about this. I was thinking about my relationship to manga, and it's really kind of like twofold. Like it's not really my it's not really what I grew up reading. And it's not my kind of go-to when it comes to comics. But for me, I think about two things. One of them is when I was in high school and I was hanging out with my friends and probably doing a lot of things I shouldn't have been doing. We would watch films like Ghost in the Shell and Akira and just kind of zone out and kind of get into that. So I remember that. I remember the fun times in high school, hanging out with my friends and kind of experiencing those kind of classic anime films. So there's that one. And then I have kind of a recent one. I was thinking about just like illustration in general, Japanese anime, manga, but it's not necessarily comic book form, although there are comic books, but Pokemon. So during the pandemic, my son and I played Pokemon Go a lot. I don't know if you've ever played that, or do you?
Definitely.
I don't know. Do you play that now by any chance?
I log in once in a while, but
Once in a while?
we
Yeah.
don't have a lot of the spinny things around here
Oh,
out in
you
the
don't have
countryside.
the gyms and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So when the pandemic hit, like my son and I, we met up with some people around here, and it was a way to connect with some of the people in the neighborhood. And so I kind of got into it. I'm a little bit older than when the original Pokemon kind of came out, the cards and all that kind of stuff in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And so for me, I just did, I liked the animations. I liked basically the illustrations of all the monsters and all the different characters. Um, and then my son started watching Pokemon, the cartoon. And so so I started watching some of that. And I think that was like the anime cartoon was maybe like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So yeah, so that's kind of my, connection with anime, Japanese illustrations, all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. I love Pokemon. I grew up watching the cartoon anime thing as well.
Yeah.
It's funny. In America, we have very distinct, like, this is cartoon and this is anime. And the art style of Pokemon's kind of somewhere in the middle. But here in Japan, it's all anime because that's just their word for animations.
Okay.
Period. Yeah.
Is there a different word for like something that might have a distinctly American kind of look to it, or
They might
just all what?
they might say Western style. Mhm.
Okay, there you
But
go.
yeah, there's not like a specific word. Like it's all anime,
Yeah.
and it's even manga is all comic books. Sometimes they'll try and distinguish American comic books by saying comics, but usually manga is kind of like a all encapsulating just word.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
And have you
All right, keep it
heard
coming. Next question.
have you
Let's
heard the
go.
word isekai?
Let's
Do
go.
you
Oh yeah. Sorry, you already asked me that. Okay, isekai, and that's sort of like transporting like a character or something to kind of another world. Is that sort of the isekai
So that's kind of
flavor
the
to it?
genre. That's the genre that people in America relate the word isekai to.
Yeah.
And here in Japan, it's just a normal word that means another planet. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the theme of world building and creating
Yeah.
these stories. So
Yeah. It's funny. When I was thinking about that, I was like, oh, I need to go on Bitsy's show and talk about this. And so I watched your podcast with Mata with M Socie. Mata, yes. And you were asking her that question. And I was thinking, when I talk to a lot of people about my comic, which is called Turner Family Terrors, it's basically it is a at the heart of it, it's a story about a family. And so I usually kind of talk about that aspect of it because that is what I think a lot of people kind of relate to. And that's something that comes very easy for me because I get to tell my stories of like frustration and inappropriate moments and sadness and joy and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, and I have all these like, it's more kind of like an urban fantasy. So we go to different cities in America and I kind of do my own kind of take on them. But then I was thinking, I don't have like I'm going to butcher the name of this, the Itara. What is your world? What's the name? How do you say it?
Eotera.
Eotera. I told you I was going to butcher it. So I read your thing. It's your Eotera, the world. It's got all the worlds and it's got like vegetables and like different fruits. And they're like, hey, this is an apple, but it's yellow instead of red type of thing. Like, that's not quite what I'm doing. And but then I thought to myself, you know what? I do have like the villains in my story are trying to open this portal, right? So they're
Oh.
opening this portal to another dimension where there's like this evil undead zombie horde that's like kind of out there, and they want to bring it back in and unleash it on all humanity and take over everything. Like that hasn't happened yet, but that's sort of like out there, right? And they're on like a different world, and they're in issue 4. I can't talk too much about this because we're only at issue 3, but I'll come back on your show next time around and we'll talk about this. But in issue 4, like there's totally this isekai kind of thing going on. There's a character that's goes somewhere, things happen, and then they come back and even crazier things happen. So we can talk about like world building and how I come up with characters and all that kind of stuff. But to really sort of dive into that kind of technical isekai, I'm going to have to wait until the next go around.
Okay. I can respect that. I have personally, I'm so bad at keeping those secrets.
Really?
My husband, he always gets mad at me. He's like, "Don't tell them that. That's not until book 5." And I'm like, "But I can't wait."
It's been really hard. It's been hard for my series because right now, Turner Family Terrors, this is our 3rd issue that's on Kickstarter right now. We're on Kickstarter. We launched about a week ago. We have about 3 weeks left. And with our first issue, we have like each issue is kind of like an origin story. It's either an origin. The first issue was kind of we followed the son, Maddie Turner, and the mom, Laura Turner. In the second issue, we find out the backstory of the dad, Bob Turner, as well as we get a pretty good sense of the daughter, little Sophia. And so by the 3rd issue, that's where they finally make it to New York, and they meet up with another group of characters. And then that's really where everything kind of comes together. We sort of established all this stuff. So it's been hard to kind of talk about certain things because I don't want to just like spoil everything, but really the story takes off in this current issue 3. So it's pretty exciting to finally be able to show illustrations of it and and even kind of talk about issue 1 and 2 a little bit, not too much, but I can talk a little bit about it and sort of feel like I'm not kind of giving it away. So yeah.
And speaking of the illustrations, you sent me this beautiful piece. I was wondering if you could maybe break it down for us.
Okay, so this is a cover piece by cover art. The illustrator is Kyle Roberts. He has done a lot of stuff with Clay Adams of Fried Comics. He illustrates The Blazing Blade of Frankenstein. And then he did the inks for it, and the colors are by another Comics Launch Pro alum, Wes Hartman. And so I love doing covers. I love like just reading comics, supporting my friends, and finding new stuff, and then saying, you know what, this is really good. I want to work with this guy. And so when Clay had his campaign for Blazing Blade of Frankenstein, there was a certain pinup that Kyle did, and it was the character I think is called the Empress. And it was a pinup of this very strong, beautiful woman. And I thought, and it was kind of Art Nouveau. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Let's see if I could do that. And as like one of their Kickstarter tiers, you can get like inks from Kyle. So basically I supported his Kickstarter, and like the guy had to work with me, you know? And so that's perfect. You know, I don't have to like chase him down. He like has to do it. You know, I've talked with him, and we just bounced some ideas around, and then I really just kind of looked into the Art Nouveau stuff, the Muka, all of his stuff, and sent Kyle just stuff that I like. And then I sent him all those characters that are in the circle. And those are a lot, probably 75% of the characters of the story. And we had those sort of illustrations. So he placed those around there, and he had that to kind of go off of. And then he just created this amazing, our main character, Laura Turner, with her scimitar there and little monster coming in, Cthulhu or whatever it is. And then I gave it to Wes Hartman, and I sent him images of what stuff that I like from Art Nouveau, and then he did this, and there it is, and I think it's stunning, and they and they nailed it, and people, it's really resonating with people, this one's selling, so it's nice. Cool, it's great. Yeah,
I really like the main character too. You said you mentioned the Scooby-Doo vibes, and I do see kind of like some Daphne vibes.
Yeah,
a little bit, because in the original Scooby-Doo, Daphne was a bit more of a fighter and kind of like what's the word? More like she had all these skills. You know? Like she could fight, she could lockpick, she could, talk 5 different languages. Like she was a badass.
Yeah, it was cool. I was really lucky to hook up with my artist, Ski Bozic. He does monsters, but he also has a little bit of a whimsical style. And so that is that really resonated with me. And I was kind of like, yeah, this is the guy that I want to work with, because it's perfect, because you need that, because at the heart of the story, it's about the family. And so I needed those drawings, those illustrations to, really be able to capture the humor and the humanity of the characters. So,
did a great job. All right. So let's see.
Should I tell everybody what my comic is about?
Yes, that and where to find it. That's I was supposed to.
So we're on Kickstarter right now. The comic is called Turner Family Terrors, and we're on issue 3 right now. And TFT is a horror comedy family adventure. Think The Simpsons meets Hellboy, and like we were talking about, it has a little bit of a Scooby-Doo vibe. The humor is like a Rick and Morty or South Park. And I would say that my number one influence is Mel Brooks's Young Frankenstein. And it's really that kind of old school, classic black and white horror look crossed with an absurd, over the top comedy. And for me, the comedy kind of, it focuses on family. And so I get to, like I was saying, it's fun. I get to write about my anecdotes. And I always say that I'm just kind of like this bumbling dad that is trying his best to not piss off his wife and screw up his kids. So, so it's fun. It's fun for me to play with these characters, but also like layer on monster stories and myth and mystery and action adventure and urban fantasy and dick jokes and spit takes, So it's like you roll all that up, and that's kind of what I'm going for with Turner Family Terrors. And we finished. We have issue 3 on Kickstarter now for another 3 weeks. If you're listening to this after June 10th, we'll probably have like a backer kit store that you can go check out. And also, we're in art production right now for issue 4. So we have 7 pages done, and our artist is working on the next 6. And that will be the final issue of the first arc and the first volume. And that'll be 110-page graphic novel. And that'll be a big deal for me personally, you know, just starting down this path, knowing that I wanted to get there. That's kind of what I wanted to get. I wanted to get a full story arc. I wanted to have that spine. I want to be able to put that book on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And along the way, we had a worldwide pandemic, you know? And so, so for me, it's like, it's going to be a big accomplishment to finish that. So check it out. Go buy my book, Turner Family Terrors, on Kickstarter right now.
Definitely. Go check it out. I will have links in the description of the Facebook stream and, of course, the YouTube stream. And for Twitter, I will come in and I will post those underneath
cool.
after we're done.
Yeah. Awesome. Great.
So I want to know a little bit more about the world. I mean, that's kind of my personal love is world building. And you said that they're going to San Francisco right now. So what has that kind of been like, bringing them through their like journey to San Francisco?
Well, I just went to San Francisco with my family, but in the comic, we're not going to San Francisco at all. So, So I live in Los Angeles right now, and with the story arc of Turner Family Terrors, we start in LA, then they go to Roswell, New Mexico, and then they eventually end up in Ithaca, New York.
Okay, so other direction.
And so for me, how I kind of approach world building or like characters, it's very much like what I see in front of me and what inspires me. I was thinking about this. I think the biggest inspiration probably is that kind of kicked everything off was a local museum of mine.
Ooh.
We have a Cold War museum down the street from us, and it opened a few years ago. And when you walk into the museum, it's really interesting. They have tons of different types of artifacts. They have different types of Soviet chess sets. They have different types of communist artwork, espionage, contraptions, just all these like really interesting things. Mm-hmm. And so when I walked in there, I was inspired, and I was like, this would be kind of a crazy location to kind of kick off a comic, right? So it started with that. And then I thought, well, I have my kind of characters. Well, maybe one of those characters works at this museum. And so that's where Laura Turner works. And then I thought, well, maybe sort of a ragtag group of Russian monsters kind of show up in disguise because they're trying to, I don't know, find a specific artifact that's in the museum that has secret powers, and so it just kind of starts building from there. And what I did was then that leads me to, well, let me do some more research on Russian culture and folklore and myths. And so then I learned, we all kind of know about the Baba Yaga. There's that. There's also some that are a little bit more obscure, like the Vila Samadiva, which are like ethereal maidens who seduce the unsuspecting male, And then there's also one of my favorites is the Vodniavoy, and he is a kind of like a frog man or a swamp creature. Mm-hmm. And so in typical like Turner Family Terrors fashion, the Vodniavoy in my book, he's addicted to British television. And so he's like a big fan of like Downton Abbey. So it's just like, he's like a, comic relief. So there my imagination just went wild with that. And some of the characters that I've created are based in Russian myths. Some of them are ones I just made up. Nice. We have a demented cosmonaut monkey. The Russians, the cosmonauts, they didn't use monkeys like in America. in the 60s, they used dogs, but I just wanted to draw monkeys instead of dogs, so I just made them monkeys. And so
Nice.
he's kind of and the Russian dog, the famous one is called her name was Laika, and so my monkey is called Spalaika, and so very creative, right? And so yeah, and then we've got the ghost of Stalin. We've got other sort of characters that pop up, but they're all a bunch of morons. They're all just like totally inept. So, most of them are inept. The other few are mainly pissed off at the other ones because those guys are so stupid. And so there's just a whole lot of supernatural shenanigans that kind of happens. And so that's really what happened in New York, or I'm sorry, in Los Angeles. And then the Turner family kind of stumbles across their plan. The Turner family takes something from them, and then they hightail it out of town. Okay. And they have one place they need to go. They need to head to New York because that's where Laura Turner's father lives, and he is the mysterious professor, and he is a monster hunter and a expert on antiquities and religion and all that kind of jazz. And so they hightail it there, and they stop in Roswell, New Mexico, and that's where I get to play with a lot of alien tropes there. And then we finally make it to New York, in issue 3, and that's where everything sort of explodes. So yeah, that's where we're at.
That's awesome. So you said that Laura's father is already into this kind of like occult and mystery and stuff. So is that like where she would have gotten her love for it, and why she kind of like maybe applied to work at the
yes, she is estranged from her dad. Okay. She revolted, actually rebelled against this entire world. Her father raised her to be the next great monster hunter, and trained her to be with martial arts and with all sorts of espionage skills. And at a certain point, she's just, I don't want to do that. I want to just live a normal life and have a family. And so she hasn't seen her dad in 20 years, and the kids have never met him before. Okay. So it's a very much a reluctant journey for her and her family. They don't want to go see this guy, but they don't really have a choice. He's like their only hope. And so they show up there. And so, yeah,
okay.
Things get a little crazy when they meet up. Yes. I don't know. Do you have that picture? Messy. Did I send you a picture of? Let me see. There's one image. I might have sent it to you. It's kind of like a castle in the background.
Is it the one with the close up on the guy's eyes and the castle? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Throw that one up there.
Yeah. Here we go. I'm not very good at using this computer. Just a second. Just gotta wait. Sorry, there we go.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. So so here they go. They find, this is page 4 of issue 3, and they finally make it to his sort of his castle that's kind of at the top of the hill in the college town that he teaches at. And the little fine print there was, it was just a matter of time. I knew you'd come crawling back to me. And so, and then those are her eyes right there. She's pretty pissed that she has to deal with this guy who's basically kind of a sociopath and an all around lousy dad. And the biggest thing for her is that she doesn't want her kids anywhere near this guy, because
Right.
he's just going to look at her kids and see two new little acolytes or monster slayers in training, and he's all in it for the money and the fame. And the Bob and Laura Turner, they don't really want that for their kids. So so there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of tension going on here, and
Yeah, you can really tell in the eyes. So let me see. So when oh goodness. Sorry.
Do you want me to ask you a question now?
Oh,
I can.
sure. I was going to ask you a question, but I can't seem to summon it. I'm not functioning.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question. We can veer back into the creative stuff for a second. My wife and I are watching a TV show now. It's called Old Enough. Have you ever heard of this show?
Nope.
Okay, so it's a Japanese show. And what they do is they take 2-year-old kids, just little tiny toddlers, and they say, hey, go out and pick up dad's dry cleaning at the cleaners.
Oh my
and so they
goodness.
send the little 2-year-old kid, the kid's like, and they send him outside, and his job is to like walk around Tokyo or walk around somewhere in Japan and just pick up the stuff. There's it's adorable, but it's ridiculous. And there's the one I saw the other day is like, there's this 2-year-old girl, and her haircut is just so bad. I mean, it's cute, but it's bad. And they say, go to the grocery store and pick up mommy a big chunk of tofu. So she's like walking around, and she goes to the store by herself. I mean, you can see that there's like 20 camera people around and the production crew, and they're like
keeping an eye on her.
They're keeping an eye on her and making sure that she doesn't get run over. But so she goes and she gets this big chunk of tofu, and then she has to walk 4 miles through the streets of Tokyo to walk back home. And it's just kind of weird. It's just a surreal show. And so when my wife and I are watching that now, and it takes place in Japan, and I'm talking to you in Japan. So what's going on with Japan?
What's going on there? Okay. There's actually a pretty okay explanation for this.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things that they teach their kids very young is independence, and you are not allowed to bring your child to school. So they have to walk.
Oh, really?
From when they're really young, they walk in a group together, led by the teacher. Like they'll kind of like, because they put their like kindergarten type schools like everywhere. So each little community has one, and the teachers kind of go and pick up the students, and they got their little sign, and they all wear the same hat. It's adorable. And they walk in a line, and she's going toot, 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 toot. And the kids are just following along like little ducks. It's so cute. I have a school right behind me, and I see them pass by every morning. It's
okay. So cute. So when they're really young, the teacher takes them, right? At what point does the teacher just not take them and say, it's got free for all, you guys are on your own?
It's whatever comes after this school behind me. So this is definitely like grade school, not grade school. It's like kindergarten through maybe first grade. So I'd say like five first grade is when they like start going off on their own.
That's still pretty young.
It's crazy. We have friends here who come like to Japan from America, and they're like, what do you mean I can't drive my kid to school? They're like, it's against policy. They need to learn how to do this themselves. And they're like, well, they're not allowed to have a cell phone. So what do I do?
Okay, so when they're 5, are they still in the group, or are they at that point old enough to walk by themselves to school?
I can't say 100% because I don't know elementary school culture here, but I think from what I've seen, they walk by themselves, usually with a friend, honestly. But you can tell they're in like grade school because they have their backpack now. And they all have the same backpack, and they'll walk with their same hat and backpack, and they all match. So you can tell like these.
Well, now I know what I'm going to do. Now I know what I'm going to do with my kids, because my kids are 10 and 7, and I still drive them to their elementary school, which is like, it's like a 20-minute walk, but they're not going to do that. So I drive them like a 3-minute drive. And so tomorrow I'm going to tell them that like 5-year-olds in Japan are walking by themselves. And so they have to walk on their own, and they have to leave me alone in the morning, and I'm not going to take them to school. So
yeah, you have to buy them a $300 backpack and get them the school appropriate hat and no cell phone, and send them on their way.
Wow, nice. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, that's good. I learned something about Japanese culture, and that was one of the things that was on my little checklist here that I wanted to get out of this wonderful talk.
That's awesome. You have a checklist. I want to know what else is on it.
What else is on it? Okay, well, I said talk about world building, manga. I was ready for that one. I was like, she's probably going to ask me about manga. Talk about that weird Japanese show with the little kids. That's on there. And the last one is, how did Bitsy get to Japan? Where are you from, and how did you end up in Japan?
So,
but first off, tell us your Kickstarter. What's your Kickstarter? And then tell us how you got to Japan.
Okay, so
I'm going to run the interview from now on.
Robert has taken the mothership.
I've taken over the mothership. Damn it!
Oh no! What do I do?
All right. So, what's your Kickstarter? How can people find it?
So
promote
we
that,
are
and then tell us how you got to Japan.
Midbits animation and mini manga. It is a huge collaborative project that might be a bit too big for my britches, but we're trying it anyway. I've got a set of 6 animations that would run throughout the rest of the year, as well as a huge team of artists coming in to do the mini manga, which is really awesome. And we have voice actors, we have like writers, we have all kinds of people coming on for this. And the goal is to get them all doing some fun stuff over the summer, And you can find, on Kickstarter under the Midbits, so MIDBITS is the kind of like, so it started because in between chapters in my actual physical manga, we have midbits. They're little mini comics that kind of they do a little bit of world building, little storytelling about the previous chapter, like stuff I couldn't fit in, like where did Eric get his copy of the magazine he had? Why is it crumpled up in his pocket? Or Ellie is screaming at the top of her lungs in the middle of the school courtyard. Does anybody notice? Yes, there is a world out there, and people did notice.
Cool.
Silly things like that. But this one is specifically going to focus on the summer before she goes to high school. So it's following the entire cast of Maiden in Disguise Book 1 will be in there, and it'll show what they do over summer break. So it should be a lot of fun, shenanigans, and showing the planet Eoterra a little bit more, because some people are traveling, some people are staying home. And I'm really excited for the AV Club specifically, because the 3 characters that are the main AV Club group, they're hilarious together. They don't get along very well sometimes.
When I was watching some of the teasers for it, or the samples or the shorter ones, it kind of, now that I was thinking about Pokemon, it kind of had a little bit of a Pokemon kind of vibe to it, a little bit. And I'm excited about it, and I'm a backer of this campaign, and I want everybody to go out there and support Bitsy and go check it out. Bitsy's amazing. So she's very talented too. She's the artist. She's so, it's interesting. There's this, we're all like creators and writers and stuff, but there are writers out there like me who I can't draw. Like there's this whole part of me, I can't do that at all. But then there are writers out there that are like amazing artists too. And I'm like, it blows my mind. It just blows my mind that there are people like that out there, and Bitsy's one of them. So go check out her work and go support her Kickstarter. There's five days left. Is that what's going on?
Might be 4 at the moment, but
4 days left. Okay. Turner Family Terrors has 21 days. So go check out Bitsy's first. Go there and support her campaign, and then go to Turner Family Terrors, support mine, and then get some good stuff.
And then go get some ice cream because you deserve it.
Yes.
Thank you. We're about halfway there, and maybe by some miracle we'll hit that, and we'll have an amazing summer.
You're gonna get that Robert Krisch bump. I'm telling you. Make sure you put this on the old interwebs before before you end, and I will point all my people to it, and all that good stuff. So
thank you.
Yeah. What else did you have? Did you want to wrap this up maybe, or what others?
Yeah. We are kind of hitting our time, aren't we? Like for questions for you?
Yeah.
So, I mean, usually I like to know like what you kind of do differently about your like specific world storytelling and like building up different ideas for like scenes and locations for like your people. Like, are they based off of real locations, like the one place, or are they kind of like?
I'll tell you about one. I kind of touched on it a little bit, a little earlier, but in the second issue, we go to Roswell, New Mexico. Yeah. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I flew to Roswell for a film festival that a film that I edited was screening at. The film was called Earworm, and it's on Shudder right now. And so you can check that out. But I was in Roswell and checking everything out. And I when I was talking with some of the locals there, and I was telling them how much I was enjoying it and how I liked the kind of like, it was like pure Americana. It was kind of like a little kitschy. And he turned to me and he said, yeah, but it's kind of a podunk town. And it is. It's like a small town in the middle of nowhere that is sort of like held on to this myth, right? And I thought about that, and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of interesting." That, like me, like basically a tourist inside this town, and I'm really enjoying it, but the locals there have a different perspective on it, and so I actually took that. I took that straight off of that conversation. And I said, you know what? My main character, Bob Turner, he's going to be from Roswell. He's going to be from Roswell, and he's going to be jaded. He's going to be jaded about that experience. And wait a minute, what if this whole BS myth that is not real, what if maybe it is real? And what if it has something directly to do with Bob? You know? And so that's what issue 2 is all about. And you can kind of see behind me, there's a little alien guy up here. That's the cover for issue 2. And it's
cool. I've actually been to Roswell too. We drove through it.
Yeah. So
it is kind of hodunk.
Yeah, podunk. Yeah. So I enjoyed it. I had a great time.
Me too.
So I think that's just like one quick example of me immersing myself in something, just kind of paying attention and kind of taking notes, and then letting my imagination run wild and having the story just kind of escalate from that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you to get your nice thick book in a couple more, what is it, months next year?
Yeah, a few more months.
Coming
A few
up.
more months. We've got, I don't know, like 20 pages left. I'll probably get the next 6 pages pretty soon. And yeah. And right now we have, on Friday, the 20th, on our Kickstarter, one of our bonuses expires. We have a bonus bundle of indie comics, and that was unlocked this past Friday the 13th. So if you go to Turner Family Terrors, I don't know when this is going to air, but
I'll put it up today.
that will expire on Friday. So everybody go, and you can, even for $1, you can get 10 really cool indie digital comics. And we just started the stretch goals, and we're a couple $100 away from our first stretch goal. And we're just going to keep it going. We're going to keep the Turner Family Terrors 1-3 Kickstarter rolling along. And I'm just going to keep meeting people and saying hey. And yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, this was great.
Well,
Bitsy, this was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Thank you again for having me on, and everyone check out Bitsy's Kickstarter as well. And
yeah, thanks so much for coming aboard, Robert. I really enjoyed having you.
I hope you don't mind I took over the mothership for just a little bit, you know?
So it's all right. I'll let people steer now and again.
It felt good steering that thing.
And I would like to give a huge shout out before we head out to my supporters, the Stranger Army, my Patreon supporters. Without you, I could not do anything. So thank you very much. You all rock. And thanks for anyone stopping by and watching. Please do check the links in the description and support Robert. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Stay strange.
Take care.
Mm-hmm.